This is the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. He has dominated Russian politics for 26 years. Putin is the definition of started from the bottom. He started his career as a KGB agent. The KGB was like the FBI and the CIA combined. It was the main intelligence security agent of the Soviet Union, dealing with both domestic and foreign issues. The Soviet Union was a union of 15 republics, namely Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Lithuania, Moldova, Latvia, Armenia, and Estonia. All these republics were part of one large country called the Soviet Union. It was massive and became America's biggest rival after World War II. This rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union became known as the Cold War. America promoted capitalism while the Soviet Union promoted communism. Vladimir Putin joined the KGB in 1975 after finishing law school. He was only 23 years old. He served in the KGB about 16 years. In about 1991, shortly before the Soviet Union official collapse, Putin left the KGB. The Soviet Union formally ended on 26 December 1991. After that, the republics that had been part of the Soviet Union became independent countries. Putin then entered public administration in his hometown of Leningrad, which is now called St. Petersburg. He became an advisor to the mayor and later rose to the position of deputy mayor. In 1996, Putin moved to Moscow and got a job in the presidential administration. At the time, the president of Russia was Boris Yeltsin. Working in the presidential administration brought Putin closer to the center of power, where senior officials around the president could notice his work. His skills were quickly recognized. Putin was appointed deputy chief of staff to the president. A chief of staff manages the president office. When I say the president office, we are not talking about the physical room where the president works. I mean the team of aides and officials who support the president. The chief of staff coordinates this staff and controls the president's schedule, often deciding who gets access to the president and which issues reach to the president first. It is therefore a very influential position. As deputy chief of staff, Putin was now inside the president's inner circle. His work became visible directly to the president. In 1998, Putin was appointed director of the FSB, Russia's main intelligence agency, and the successor of the KGB. He was also appointed secretary of the Security Council. This position gave Putin access to the key security and political networks across the government, which became important step in his rise. In August 1999, President Boris Yeltsin appointed Putin as prime minister. On December 31, 1999, President Yeltsin resigned. Putin automatically became acting president. 3 months later, Putin won the 2000 presidential election and became president. He was re-elected in 2004 for another 4-year term, serving until 2008. At the time, the Russian constitution said the president could not do more than 2 consecutive terms. Or I can say it in this way, that presidents were allowed to serve more than 2 terms, but not 2 terms in a row, which means the president will do his 2 consecutive terms and you have to give to another one. Then after another one, then he can come back to the throne. That was the way they were using it in Russia for presidents. By 2008, Putin had already served 2 consecutive terms, so he could not run again. To remain influential, Putin supported his close ally, Dmitry Medvedev, who ran for presidential in 2008 and won. Medvedev then appointed Putin as prime minister. During this time, Putin was the one truly in charge, even though he was no longer the president. He continued to influence things. In fact, then Medvedev was still president. The constitution was changed so that future president terms would last 6 years instead of 4 years. This was the constitution amendment so that they can get a little bit longer term than before, from 4 years to 6 years. In 2012, after the end of his term, Medvedev stepped aside in order for Putin to run back as the president. Putin won and beginning a 6-year term from 2012 to 2018. He was re-elected in 2018 for another 6-year term that will end in 2024.